Good morning, dear students of class 11 science. Welcome to environmental science class. We are dealing with the chapter ecology. So in today's class, we will begin with the new topic, that is interdependence of species. Okay, it's in page number 22. Interdependence of species. So under this topic, we will discuss about mutualism. We will talk about parasitism. We will talk about proto-cooperation, predation, commensalism, and competition. So these are the types of interaction that occurs between the species. Clear? So we'll go through it one by one. So first of all, we'll talk about mutualism, because there are different types of animal associations. Clear? There are different types of interactions that occurs between the species. In the last class, we have talked about the type of resources, right? Resources in nature are limited in number; they are not unlimited, and due to the limited number of resources, there will be competition among the species, right? That means between the animals that belong to the same species or between the different species. So those type of interactions we are going to discuss over here. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about mutualism. So in mutualism means when the two organisms live together, all right, in such a way that both of them are mutually benefited. Clear? Mutualisms between, we can say that is a close association or relationship between the two organisms where both of them will be mutually benefited. So there will be mutual exchange of materials between the two species. Clear? So when there will be such type of relationship between the two species, then that is called mutualism or mutual association, where both of the species living together will mutually benefited. Okay, so common example we can take that of a bee and a flower, right? Now bee is dependent on the flower for nectar, that we know, right? And the flower is also benefited by the bee for the process of pollination, right? Because whenever the bee used to visit the flower to collect the nectar, the pollen grains will stick to the body of the bee. So when the bee will move from one flower to another flower, they will help in the transfer of pollen grains. That means they're helping in pollination. So in this case, both the bee and the flower are being mutually benefited. So it is a mutual relationship or mutualism. Another example we can take about lichens. Okay, lichens is mainly association of algae and fungi. Listen very carefully. Clear? Lichens is mainly an association of algae and fungi, and in fact, these lichens are biological indicator of air pollution. Yeah, so these lichens are generally found in the place where there will be low air pollutions, or when there is no air pollution. So when the air starts being polluted, then lichens will slowly disappear. Clear? So lichens is a biological indicator of air pollution. So lichens is mainly an association of algae and fungi. So over here, both the algae and fungi has to be mutually benefited. Okay, so let's see the advantage. All right, what they are providing to each other. So algae produces food, all right, to the fungi, and the fungi provides mineral, nitrogen, and water to the algae. So over here, both of them are mutually benefited. So it's example of mutualism. Next example we'll take of rhizobium, nitrogen fixing bacterium, which is present in the root nodules of leguminous plants. So you can see the figure over here, all right, the root nodules. So these rhizobiums are present in the root nodules of leguminous plants. So let's see the advantage, all right, let's see the benefit which both of them are sharing with each other. Now in the roots of the plants, this bacteria gets various nutrients and food for their growth. So bacteria are getting food and nutrients for their growth, and in return, all right, bacteria is providing atmospheric nitrogen to the plant, because this rhizobium will convert the atmospheric nitrogen to nitrates. Listen very carefully. Rhizobium, the bacteria will convert the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates, nitrates, and these nitrates act as a good fertilizer and will help in the growth of the plant. Clear? So over here, both of them are being mutually benefited. Then let's go to next example. Nostoc and Anabina, another nitrogen fixing bacteria, okay, which live in association with the fern azolla. Clear? So the fern provides substances to algae. Listen very carefully. Nostoc and Anabina, the algae, sorry. Nostoc and Anabina, the algae, which live in association with the fern. Clear? Azolla. So over here, the fern provides organic substances to algae, whereas the algae supply nitrogen to the fern. So here we can see the mutual exchange of substances or materials between the two species which are living in close association, where both of them are being mutually benefited. Okay, so this is called mutualism, the first interaction. Now let's go to the second interactions, which is called the parasitism, a parasitic mode of life where one organisms will totally depend on another organisms for the food and shelter. Okay, so it is a mode of life where an organism lives in the body of another organism. So here the organism which lives in the body of another organism is called the parasite. So these organisms which living in the body of another organism is called the parasites, and the another one is called the host. So parasites are dependent on the body of the host for shelter, for reproduction, and for food. Clear? So here we can say that the parasites will be benefited, but the host is being affected. Alright, so it's a harmful relationship, we can say, where the host is being harmed by the parasite, whereas parasite is being benefited. Clear? Because it is getting food, it is getting shelter, it is getting the place for reproduction within the body of the host. So we'll check out the few examples of parasitism. All right, so one example you can say plasmodium, the protozoan which causes malaria, and this plasmodium will grow or will multiply in the liver and in the RBC. So you can see over here, this is the RBC, the biconcave cell, which is the RBC, and within the RBC you can see the presence of plasmodium, the protozoan which causes malaria. Okay, so this is the parasite. Clear? That is mainly multiplying in the liver cells, in the red blood cells of the human host. So here we can say that this parasite, this plasmodium, is the pathogen which causes different types of diseases in case of the body of the host. Now in case of plants also we will get the parasites, you know, is called the cascata. Okay, this yellowish one which you are seeing over here is mainly the cascata. Okay, so this cascata grows as a parasite on the shrubs and trees. So due to the lack of chlorophyll, it is not able to perform the process of photosynthesis. It is not able to synthesize the food materials. So that's why they are totally dependent on other plant or the host. So what I mean is that this cascata, it produces a particular substance called haustoria. Kindly mark the word, okay, in the book. It's called haustoria. Haustoria, haustoria. So it produces haustoria which penetrates the stem tissue of the host plant and develop direct contact with the host vascular tissue for deriving nourishment from it. Now what do you mean by vascular tissue? Mainly we have got two types of conducting tissue or vascular tissue. We can say xylem and phloem, which will help in the conduction of food and water. Okay, so this cascata, this plasmodium are the example of parasitic interaction or the mode of life. So in parasitisms, parasites will be benefited whereas host will be harmed. Next, interdependence, proto-cooperation. Okay, it is a type of interactions or the interdependence similar to mutualism. Okay, where both of the, in case of mutualism, we learn that both the species living together will be mutually benefited. They are dependent on one another, right? Because when, let's say for example, in case of bee and the flower, those flower which are dependent on bee for pollination, all right, in that case if the bee will become extinct, then those flower will also become extinct, because in mutualism they are dependent upon one another. But in proto cooperation, though it is a type of interdependence similar to mutualism, but it is not obligatory, it is not completely dependent. All right, the two species which are living together in proto cooperation, they are not totally dependent upon one another. Clear? So it's a type of independent mode of life. So they are not totally dependent on one another, like in case of mutualisms, where both the species are mutually dependent upon one another. Okay, so in this association, each species tends to depend on the other for certain advantage. For example, we have got an irrigate bird with the water buffalo. Now, what are the advantage that the bird is getting or is being benefited? The birds mainly rides on the water buffalo and used to eat lice, okay, ticks, and other insects which are found on the skin of the water buffalo. Okay, so here the birds get food in the form of insects, and the buffalo is being freed from irritating insect bites. Now, similarly, we can see an association between the birds, tick birds, and rhinoceros also. Okay, but in this case, the irrigate birds and the water buffalo, they are not totally dependent on one another. They can exist without the other. Okay, then similarly, we have got this in Africa, like ostriches which live in a herd of zebras. Okay, now this mainly these ostriches, they will used to inform the zebra from the incoming dangers, and in return they will get food from the heart of the zebras. The next one example you can take of the sea anemones and the body of a crab. All right, distinguishing nature of the sea anemone, this which you can see over here, this is the sea anemone. Okay, and this is the body of the crab. So the sea anemone, what they do is that due to the stinging cells present in the sea anemone, they used to scare the enemy of the crab. So those enemies which used to visit the crab, alright, they will be threatened by the stinging cells present in the case of sea anemone. So sea anemone is a fixed cylon turret, is shifted from place to place with the movement of the crab, and thus get better opportunities to find the food material. So this is a case of proto-cooperations, clear? But here both of them can exist or can live without the presence of another one. So it's not a totally dependent relationship. Next one, predation. So in this type of interactions, normally one animal will eat the another species. Only one animal will eat the another animals. Predation, predator and prey relationship. Here how to predator, here how to prey, right? Predator will prey upon, right? We used to feed upon the prey, that we know. Okay, predator will eat the prey, that is called the predation. So in this type of interactions, big species regularly consumes or eat the another species. Example, tiger eating the deer, feeding upon deer. Okay, snake eat the rat, eagle eat the rabbit and the mouse. So this is a very common example of predation or predator and prey interactions, where the predator used to feed upon the prey. So tiger is the predator, deer is the prey, snake is the predator, rat is the prey, eagle is the predator, rabbit and mouse are the prey. Clear? So predator is usually a large animal feeding on another smaller one known as the prey. So when we look at the size of the predator and the prey, so predator will be usually larger in size and prey will be smaller in size. Okay. Next one, commensalism. So commensalism, in this type of association, one organism is benefited while the another remains unaffected, and there is no involvement of food. Simple. In commensalism, one will be benefited, another one will be neither harmed, will be neither benefited. So it will be neutral. Clear? Example you can see over here, woodpecker, okay, which picks holes on the tree, all right, mainly for nesting. After they have abandoned the tree, or the holes on the tree, some other birds, all right, some other birds will come and use that particular hole present on the tree for nesting. A very beautiful example of commensalism is the crab. Now you can see over here, this is the crab. The crab getting protection by using the shell of a mollusk. So this one is the shell of a mollusca. I think I heard learned in class 9, mollusca. Okay, so this particular shell is being produced by the mollusca. Okay, I've heard of apple snail, right? And like snail, they belong to mollusca. They used to produce the cavity or the shell. Okay, so over here, the crab is using this particular shell for protection. Okay, so the association of short body crab, you can say the hermit crab, and the empty mollusk shell is a good example of commensalism. Clear? Because over here, who is being getting benefited? The crab is being benefited. How? Because it is getting protection by using the shell produced by mollusks as a shelter. But over here, the molluscan is not getting any advantage, right? So simply over here, the crab is being benefited, but the molluscan is neither being harmed nor getting any type of advantage from the crab. So a simple example of commensalism. Clear? Next one, competition. The type of interactions between the two organisms in which both of them try to obtain the same benefits present in the nature or present in any habitat. Alright, so over here the competing species, the two species which are competing among each other, they may belong to the same species or they may belong to the different species. Alright, because I'm telling you that in a particular habitat, when the resources will be limited, then those species, all right, those animals which belong to the same species or in different species, they will compete with one another for the food and shelter, for the available, well, we can say resources. But over here in your book, we have got the examples from the tropical evergreen forest. Okay, we'll take the example of a tropical evergreen forest. The thickly populated plants compete for the light. Alright, because in evergreen forest we'll find the tall trees. Okay, and those thickly populated plants, they used to compete for the capture of solar energy in order to perform the process of photosynthesis. All right, the competition among the plants may occur for water, okay, for nutrients and the light. So here the competition is occurring between the plants, among the plants, to absorb or to capture the light, all right, to absorb the water molecules, to absorb the nutrients. And in case of any animals, it will be for food, it will be for shelter, and it will be for mating or reproduction. And this particular competition is very important, all right, in nature, because competitions will control the population of a species. Without competition, just think, if in a particular habitat, if the tigers is absent, so we have got a particular habitat where deer and tigers are present. Clear? So if the tigers will become extinct from that particular habitat, then the population of the deer keeps on multiplying, and higher the number of deer population, they will feed more on the grasses, more on the plant, and they will ultimately turn that forest or the grassland into a barren area or desertic area. So over here competition is very important to maintain the balance of the nature. So the population of the deer is maintained by the tiger, right? So tiger will feed on the deer, and eventually the population of the plants will be maintained. So this competition is very important, all right, because it will control the population of a species. Clear? So living organisms interact with climatic conditions in a habitat, because we have learned about ecosystems where there is interactions between the living component and the non-living component along with their environment in which the organism lives. So we, the living organisms, will interact with climatic conditions in a habitat. So if there are more trees in a region, such a habitat will be darker and cooler. The soil condition of the habitat becomes favorable for the growth of a larger number of life forms such as mosses, ferns, herbs, shrubs, okay, insects, earthworms. Actually, the tree and the leaves of the tree influence the temperature and the humidity in a habitat, because you know that these particular leaves of a plant, all right, they will help in transpiration, and transpiration will bring rainfall. Okay, and if the trees and the plants are reduced in a habitat, there will be lost in the moisture of the area, because there will be less transpiration. And what is transpiration? It is loss of water in the form of vapor, water vapor from the aerial part of the plant. So if the number of trees will be less, then there will be lesser moisture in that particular habitat, in that particular area. The soil will become barren and there will be less rainfall. Atmospheric temperature will increase due to the shortage of water, and this habitat will be no longer suitable for living forms because of such depleting changes. Okay, so this is very important. So we have to conserve the nature, we have to go for Afforestation, we have to plant more trees, because if we used to plant more trees, then that will maintain the climatic condition of a particular habitat. So till now we have finished the interdependence among the species, right? We have learned about mutualism, we have learned about parasitism, we have learned about proto-cooperations, we have learned about predation, commensalism, and the competition. Now we will go to the next slides, and here we will try to understand the relationship or the interaction. Okay, so first one, you can see over here, I've given the symbol, okay, plus, minus, nil or zero. Plus means positive signs. It indicates beneficial relationship or benefit, we can say. Negative sign indicates harmful relationship, and nil or zero indicates neutral, neither getting benefited or neither getting harmed. Clear? So let's see interactions. First one is positive interactions. We have got scavenging, commensalism, proto-cooperation, mutualism, or symbiosis. So we have got two species, species A and species B. Clear? So I think you are looking at the diagram also over here. So we have got species A and species B. Then we have got interactions and the nature of interaction. So first we'll talk about the positive interaction. So first one is scavenging. So in scavenging, species A will be benefited, whereas species will be neither harmed nor will be benefited. So here it is beneficial to scavenger who feeds on the flesh or the dead organisms. Clear? So scavengers are being benefited, whereas the other one is neither being benefited or neither being harmed. Commensalism, second one, where one species will be benefited and the other one will be neither harmed nor will be benefited. So who is being benefited over here? So the one species is being benefited. Okay, then proto-cooperations, so both of them are being benefited. So both of the species A and B are being benefited. So beneficial to both but not obligatory, means they are not totally dependent on one another, like in case of mutualism. In mutualism or symbiosis, both the species will be mutually benefited, but it is obligatory. That means one species is dependent upon the another. If one species will become extinct, then another one which is dependent on will also become extinct. So here species A and B is there. So if species A will become extinct, then B will also become extinct. Okay, now next one, negative interactions. Parasitisms, where parasites will be benefited and the host will be harmed. Okay, negative is harmful one. So parasites will be benefited, whereas host will be harmed. That's why we are given a negative sign over here. Okay, so here if we say if A is parasite and B is the host, so parasite, that means A will be benefited, B will be harmed. So we have given negative sign to the B. Predations, where one will predate upon the another. So predator will be benefited, prey will be harmed. So it is beneficial to the predator which get food, but the prey dies. So predator is being benefited, but the prey is being harmed. So we are giving negative sign to the prey. Competition, same thing. You can see over here in competition, if you look in competitions, you can see both of them are being harmed. Okay, both suffer as they have to compete for the same resources, and when they are competing for the same resources, then both of them will be harmed. So we are giving negative sign to both the species. Clear? So there is the comparison of various interaction among the animals. Clear? So today we have learned about the interdependence of species. In the next class we will learn about flow of energy, and we will learn about energy pyramid and the nutrient cycle. So this much for today. See you in next class. Thank you.